You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 96.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We're so excited to have you here with us today. In this episode of the Balanced Educator Podcast, we are going to be talking about how social emotional learning is the foundation for a smooth running classroom. But before we get into that, we're super excited to share this week's sponsor, which is Breathe for Change. Breathe for Change is a movement to enhance the health and well-being of teachers, students, and entire school communities. They offer the world's only 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training specifically for educators and partner with schools, districts, and organizations to enhance community-wide well-being. Their work is absolutely life-changing. If you haven't already heard episode number 88, where we interviewed Ilana, the founder of Breathe for Change, you definitely have to give that a listen. It is so inspiring and it's going to make you definitely want to check out their 200-hour yoga teacher trainings. So their applications for 2020 are now open. Through the training, you'll be equipped and empowered to enhance your own well-being and integrate mindfulness and social emotional learning into your classroom and community. Upon graduating Breathe for Change's flagship training, you'll be eligible to receive 2 certifications: the internationally recognized Yoga Alliance 200-hour yoga certification and Breathe for Change's Wellness Champion certification. If you're committed to using wellness as a vehicle for social change and want to join an incredible community of thousands of like-minded leaders, then join the Breathe for Change movement and check out their trainings near you at www.breatheforchange.com/balanced. Again, that's breatheforchange.com/balanced. All right, let's get into this week's episode. So we talk a lot about how important it is to get our students' brains ready for learning. You know, when you come into your classroom and your students kind of rush in, there's chaos in the air.
Yep.
And you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to get these kids calmed down so that they're actually going to be taking in what I have to teach them today? Well, through our experience, social emotional learning is the foundation for getting our students ready to learn.
Absolutely.
It makes huge differences in our classroom culture, in the way things go, in our students' ability to learn.
And to self-regulate.
Which is so helpful when you don't always have to be the one supporting them to manage their big emotions, and they're able to manage them themselves. So sometimes people might think, is it really our job as teachers to be teaching our students how to manage their emotions? Like, is it worth taking that time out of my classroom time, which is minimal? I have so much to do in so little time. Is it really worth taking the time to teach them about their emotions and how to manage those emotions? Or is that the job of someone else? So let's get into how and why we think that social emotional learning is the first thing that needs to happen in the classroom.
At the end of the day, if the brain isn't ready for learning, it's not ready for learning, which means that either way, whether it's our job or not, we have to take our students to a place where they can tackle academics, where they can learn the concepts, the outcomes that they need to learn. But, and if we look at the Maslow pyramid, if their basic needs aren't met, which is at the very bottom of the pyramid, then we can't move up the pyramid.
Exactly.
So basic needs, we are talking physiological needs, so food, water, warmth, rest, all of that.
And we know what it's like when our students come into our classroom, or for ourselves, when you're hungry, like when I'm hangry, Don't talk to me. I am not ready to learn. Interestingly enough, I was doing a workshop in Erith's classroom. Hi, Erith, if you're listening. And we were talking about all the different emotions, and the students said hanger. That was one of the toughest emotions to deal with. So when that basic need isn't met, we're not ready to be our best selves. We're not ready to learn new things.
And if we look on the pyramid, it's not learning that comes after that. There are still other things before we can get to that place where our brains, our bodies are ready to focus and to learn new things.
And what's the next step on that pyramid?
So the next step is safety needs have to be met. So those are also basic needs. Students need to feel secure. They need to feel safe. They need to know that something isn't going to chase them. And, I feel like you can get into this.
Yeah, we've
talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but
yeah, we have talked about that fight and flight response, and maybe I'll just get into it right now. So when our students are walking into our classroom with that safety need not being met, or even the further down the pyramid, those initial needs not being met, their body might be in the stress response, which means that the hormones in their body are firing to create physiological changes in their body, which make their body prepared and ready to fight or flee a danger. So what happens when the body is stressed is that it sends all of its resources essentially to our muscles. So our heart starts pumping faster. When you're scared, your heart starts pumping faster, or stressed, your heart's pumping faster, your blood pressure rises. And that's so that your body can send lots of oxygen and nutrients to the muscles so that you're able to literally fight or run away from the perceived danger. So when our students come into our classrooms and maybe they're worried about a bully, maybe they're worried about someone spreading rumors about them, whether it's physical danger or emotional danger, those are all things that can push a body into the stress response, or even not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, or if your parents remembered to pack you a lunch. Those are all things that can send the body into the stress response. So when our body is sending all of its resources to our muscles, it actually stops sending its resources to other areas of the body. So it's concerned with really short-term survival. So it's not thinking about what do I need to grow and be healthy tomorrow. It's only concerned about right now. So it stops sending its resources and energy to the digestive system. So the body actually stops digesting its food for that time while you're in the stress response. And that's because it takes a lot of energy to digest our food, and the body isn't concerned about how it's going to have energy for tomorrow. It just wants to protect itself right now. Even things like our vision changes. So we lose our peripheral vision when we're in a stress response, so that our eyeballs, so that our vision can get hyper focused on the perceived danger. So that's really important for if a snake is coming at us. We want to be able to really clearly focus on that snake so that we can make a quick decision of how to react. But if I'm in a classroom and there's, things to learn, big picture ideas that I need to take in, if my brain and body are stuck in the stress response,
if your basic needs aren't met.
Exactly. Then I can't even take in that information. I'm hyper-focused on whatever problem I'm perceiving.
Yes. And on the pyramid of Maslow, that's only the first 2 tiers. There are more tiers before we even hit learning.
Yeah.
The ability to focus.
Exactly.
And create and all of that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is just a physiological response. Now, when we're not in the stress response, our body is thinking about tomorrow and it's thinking about long term. So it's regenerating our cells, it's digesting our food, it's generating brain cells and new connections in the brain that are required for new learning. When the body's in a stress response, it stops generating those new connections that are required to learn something new. Even our memory gets altered. So we can't access our memories properly when we are in a stress response. So when students come into the classroom and maybe they have a test or a presentation or something where they have to perform at their best, if they're feeling stressed out about it or anxious about it, they can't access their memories, so they can't perform at their best. So yeah, the body physically isn't in a space where it's ready to learn if the body is stressed, and not having those safety needs met often is triggering that stress response. So what's next on Maslow's pyramid?
So these two were the basic needs of the human, and then we move up to the psychological needs, starting with belongingness and love needs. So relationships, friendships, all of that. And
if for those of you that love Dan Siegel's work as I do, he and you do as well, Josiane, we love his book, The Whole Brain Child. We highly recommend that book. But on top of that, he does a lot of talks, and I totally binge watch his YouTube videos. But he does a lot of talks on the importance of relationships, and the importance of relationships for proper brain function and also for learning. So that connection that we're making with our students isn't just, important just to be nice, but it's actually required for learning. So the brain behaves differently when the human is feeling cared for and safe. And I think most of us can think back to our own time in school and those teachers that we had that we didn't feel a connection with. We tended to be more disinterested in what they had to share and just not even really very willing to learn new things from that person if you don't trust them. And when we're focusing on social emotional learning in the classroom, that trust piece and that connection piece is something that especially people that are using our program have reported to us a lot, is that they've created a really great connection and relationship with their students through practicing mindfulness daily. And that connection, they've noticed, has improved learning outcomes and learning behaviors in the classroom. So yeah, since I just mentioned that, might as well let you guys know that if you haven't already signed up for our free trial to our social emotional program, where students learn how to manage big emotions through mindfulness, then go check that out. Go to edgecom.com and click on free trial, and you'll get 4 to 5 weeks worth of daily mindfulness practices for your classroom.
And we have a giveaway going on right now.
Yes. So when you sign up for the free trial, you will be entered to win a 12-month membership to our full year mindfulness program for the classroom, EduCom Classroom.
And that closes on February 15th. I'm trying to remember the date. All right. So on Maslow's pyramid, we are still in psychological needs. So we just talked about belongingness and love needs, and then we're slowly starting to move in now to the learning portion. Esteem needs. So prestige and feeling of accomplishment. So that's the next need on the Maslow's pyramid.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we need to be able to be in a space where we're starting to learn and grow. So we need to feel like there's a sense of community that we belong to in our classroom. We need to feel like we can trust the people in our classroom. We need to feel connected to our teacher and to our peers. And all of those are things that come when we're practicing social emotional learning in the classroom, especially through mindfulness. That connection, that kindness and compassion get developed. And that self-esteem, that self-worth really gets built through this mindfulness practice as we learn to recognize our own thoughts and feelings, and that those thoughts and feelings are all okay, and how to support ourselves in a healthy way as we are managing and living with these ups and downs that humans experience with our emotions. So social emotional learning really is the foundation of being able to meet these several levels of needs required before we're ready to move on to learning.
So we can choose to teach academics without doing social emotional learning, but it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall. Probably.
Yeah.
Because like really, if they're not ready for it, they're not going to absorb it.
Yeah.
They haven't moved up the pyramid to get to where they need to be to learn and to remember also, right? Because you talked about the memory piece. So to be able to learn something, but then to remember it for later.
Exactly. And so it is worth taking that time, because if we're not taking that time and moving them up that pyramid, then what's the point? You know, like you said, throwing spaghetti at a wall or, you know, talking to a wall, right? They're not there. And we've seen what that looks like. We've all been in the classroom where we've seen that we're speaking and a student's eyes are glossed over and they're just not there with us. And so I think it's our job and our responsibility to help them get to a place where they are ready to learn. And then once we are there, the learning goes so much faster.
That's the thing. It's so true. Like when you take that time, I cannot believe the difference from what I've seen in my own classroom. It's fascinating.
It's kind of like the difference between trying to walk through a closed door or taking the time to open the door and then walk through it.
I love that analogy.
Right? If you're trying to teach a mind that isn't ready for it, you're hitting yourself up against a closed door. Take the time to open that door and then so much easier.
And only then can we move up the pyramid and up to the next level, that is the self-fulfillment needs. So the self-actualization, that's a tricky one.
Yeah. So that's where we're actually reaching our potential.
That's right.
That's where we are learning, we're growing, we're thriving.
Can be creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We can like recognize our strengths and build on them. We can really grow and develop. And that is the learning sweet spot right there. That is the space where our students are going to be motivated to learn, where it's not just forcing them to learn, but they feel that learning is supporting their own growth and development. But they just won't be there if all those levels before then have not been reached or not been fulfilled. So the way that we've found is the most effective to support our students moving through these different tiers to get to the point where they're ready to learn is by focusing on social emotional learning as a daily practice through mindfulness.
And first thing in the day.
Yeah.
Before class.
As a warm up to learning, as the first thing we do, opening that door before trying to walk through it.
I love that.
So the way that we do this mindfulness practice in the classroom is pretty simple. Basically, we get into a routine where we're doing it every day. So it's part of our schedule. It's on the schedule for the day. So
the kids know it's coming.
Exactly. We sit down either at tables or in a circle, and we press play on the audio guided mindfulness practice in Educom Classroom. Then it's as simple as following along with the audio, doing it with your students so that they can see you modeling this practice, and also so that you can move through your pyramid as well. If you're in a stressed out state, then your students are going to mirror that and they're going to feel stressed out too. They feel your emotions just as you feel theirs. And so
I think kids are even better than adults at that for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Listening to the audio together and then having a little discussion afterwards, whether that's a sharing circle to ask them how their day is going or how the practice went for them, or just a discussion, just to see where they're at. And this is going to help them to understand that they feel they're cared for, they're supported, they have a place in this community, in this classroom, and that they have a lot in common with the other students in the classroom when you give them the chance to talk about their feelings, their emotions, or just whatever's on their mind. Then they create connections between them and you get to know them better and how you can support them. You start to get to know their thought process a little better as well. And
develop a common vocabulary.
Yeah.
Which is really useful.
And also make it okay to talk about emotions. Emotions are something that we all live with, and they impact not only our mental health and wellness, but our learning, our well-being. emotions are a big part of how we think and act and how we behave. And it's really, really helpful for students to understand how to notice their emotions, that those emotions are okay, and that there's a way to manage them in a healthy way that's both supportive for them and for the people around them. So if you'd like to try this out in your classroom, we have a free trial for you. Go to educalm.com, click on free trial and sign up. You are going to get access to 4 to 5 weeks worth of ready to use, zero prep mindfulness practices to do with your students in your classroom. There's even training in there, to help you know exactly how to do this. So when you sign up, you're going to get an email from us right away that's going to give you a little training video to watch. And you'll also have some training within the program there too, if you want a longer, deeper training as well. So all the things are there to support you.
And if you're listening to this before February 15th of 2020, just to clarify, because sometimes we listen to episodes much later, you'll be entered to win a 12-month subscription to Educalm Classroom.
Yes.
So that's your exit ticket for today, is to go to educalm.com and click on free trial and try it out.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We hope you feel like all your needs are being met and that you're able to move up that Maslow's pyramid to a space where you are fulfilling your best potential.
Love it. Have an awesome week.
Bye.